Hello, everyone, and welcome to You Don't Say, a podcast by the Mentorship Collective. I'm Hylan.
And I'm Nikki.
And today we wanted to dive into a little bit further, a little bit deeper dive, I guess, into the clinical fellowship experience and what to expect as you start this experience. We talked a lot in our last podcast about the first 3 months of your CF and some of the challenges you might face, but we want to dig a little bit deeper into, because we've gotten some questions about what to expect from day one, from your CF, from your mentor, from your supervisor, from yourself, what you should be prepared for. So let's dive into that. First off, Nikki, how are you? How's it going?
Doing well, just dealing with our 6-month regression for my daughter. So she slept 8 hours last night, which was great. So not a regression.
That's amazing.
Oh, it's beautiful. I feel like a new human. I was starting to feel a little sick, and now, one night of sleep really can change everything.
You're a new woman, a new lady.
Yeah, new person. How are you doing?
I love it. Doing good. Just cruising. Just got my coffee. Ready to chat with you. Doing well. Just seeing kiddos and, living that SLP life. Just plugging along.
I love it.
I actually have a girls' trip this weekend in Palm Springs that I'm excited about. So that will be really fun.
That sounds so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's two nights with girls that I haven't seen. We haven't been able to get together in years, and it just all happened kind of out of nowhere. So really excited about that. So
a spontaneous girls' trip to Palm Springs.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yep.
Wow. Amazing.
Pretty pumped.
Well,
pretty pumped.
That makes any day better.
Yes, exactly. That makes the week that was stressful even better, for sure. So let's dive into the CF experience. Nikki, I'll let you kick us off and kind of let the people know what to expect.
Well, we can start with what to expect is there's going to be some difficulty. It's going to be pretty rare for you to not encounter feeling a little unsure of yourself, feeling like you don't belong, feeling like this career wasn't for you. Those are all really typical and normal feelings that you might experience. And every person's going to have a different type of CF experience. We cannot predict for you what's going to happen. But what we have seen is the first 3 months tend to be the most challenging. You're diving in, you're thrown in from grad school where everything's a bit more structured. There's a little bit more, and this is going to sound like an unkind thing to say, but it's not unkind. There's a little bit more hand-holding. You're given more direction. You're told what to do. And if not, you're able to get guidance to tell you what to do. And now when you're CF, the second you walk through the door on your first day, that is gone. It's just gone. We're expecting you to be able to do a lot more independently, whether you know what you're doing or not. Every supervisor knows you don't really know what you're doing. At least the first 2 to 3 years, you really don't know everything you're doing. You start to get a little bit more confident as you go through time, and then you learn that you don't ever know what you're doing. So then you just get comfortable with that.
It's so true. So true.
It's like you got some theories that work, and then you're like, that one didn't work, and you're just better at pivoting once you're farther along in the career.
That's it.
And so it's just understanding that when you go in, you are expected to be more independent. You aren't. A supervisor isn't there. I guess this is more that thought process. A supervisor isn't there to fully supervise. They're there to help guide you. So I think when we think supervisor, it's someone who's watching and monitoring and helping me constantly to help me shape these skills. And they are to a point, but they also often have their own caseload, or they're running a practice, or all types of different things. They're not on site. They're having to travel. And so it's really that they're there to guide you. They're more like guides, I think, than someone who's sitting there saying, like, you're doing this right, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this right. And some people might have that approach, but whenever we're supervising, it's really about guiding and getting those thinking processes going. So your first 3 months are going to be challenging. First month is where we see a lot of CFs who cry, or they just don't want any help at all. Like, I will figure it out by myself. Don't talk to me. Or they're kind of in the middle. Sometimes they're okay. Sometimes they're not. You'll see a big personality shift of yourself where the first 3 months you're kind of like, who am I? What has happened? And a lot of times we have met this bright, bubbly, happy person in our interviews, and then all of a sudden the first month you're like, whoa, what happened? Where did she go?
Yeah.
And you always come back. You will always come back from it. I think you've said this a bunch, Highland, but like you will be okay. And you will. You will.
You will. It doesn't mean it doesn't suck when it sucks, but you will be okay and come out on the other side. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that's really those first 3 months. You're going to feel overwhelmed. You're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing. You're going to stay later than you should for your SOAP notes. You're going to not get all your notes done. You're going to be late on your reports. You're going to have parents ask you questions you don't know the answers to. And that's really hard to happen from 0 to like 60. You're just 0 to 60.
I love how you mentioned that supervisors are more like guides. I want to kind of come back to that because I feel like that's so important, because you are coming from the structured, perfect, like you said, supervision situation where you have someone literally telling you that's right and that's wrong, to ideally what should be happening is your supervisor is challenging your thinking. So this is the time when you're really sharpening those critical thinking skills in a way that you didn't in grad school, in my opinion. Like I remember feeling that way and feeling overwhelmed, and my supervisor asking me more questions. And at first it's hard not to get a little frustrated by that for some people, because you're like, but I'm asking you for the help. I want you to tell me what to do, or I wouldn't come to you and ask you. But there's the reason for that. And so I think that you need to expect that in your CF. Expect that your supervisor is a guide. They are not there with you full time. We kind of think of it like children, right? We raise children, we help them do things for so long, and then we slowly start pulling our support so that they can be more independent. That's what's happening, right? They're trying to help you be more independent. And so supervisors are not going to have all the time in the world. They're not going to be able to answer your emails within a few seconds, or your chats or your text, or hop on a call with you immediately. 90% of them just aren't. And so you're left there in feeling that uncomfortable feeling, and you have to solve the problem. You can't run away from it. And so that's challenging those critical thinking skills, and you're going to mess up. Even your entire CF, even as a young clinician, you're going to make wrong decisions. You're going to say the wrong thing. You're going to upset probably a parent or a caregiver. You're going to do the wrong thing with a child. And that's okay, because it's all about learning and growing in that moment and then correcting it, right? You don't know what you don't know. And then when you do something wrong and you make that mistake, that's when you realize, oh, well, I did that wrong. I've got to change it. I've got to pivot. But the supervisor piece, I love how you said that, because I think that we have to be fair to the supervisors, because we've supervised before too. And we have to prepare CFs that they also have that full caseload. They also have clients who depend on them, parents that want to have conversations, likely other people they're supervising as well that are coming to them with questions. And so if they're asking you questions or challenging you, it's not because they don't like you or don't support you. It's because they want to help you be more independent.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good segue of just like what a supervisor goes through on the other end. So understanding the empathy piece of like what the supervisor is going through, and understanding all of us, I would say almost all of us, don't get formal training on how to supervise. So not only are you then expected to manage your own caseload, you're also expected to understand how to supervise new clinicians who have a variety of different requirements in their own brains, as well as feelings associated with what they want their CF to look like and what they've dreamed of this. You've dreamed of this. This is what you've worked so hard, and now you're in this space. And your supervisor has also been like, okay, I want to grow. I want to help guide the next generation of SLPs. And then you kind of walk into a fence post at times of like, oh my God, should I have done this? And you have a lot of supervisors saying that. You have a lot of supervisors being like, this was just a lot more difficult than I thought, and I don't want to do this anymore. And you're stuck at that point too. And then you have someone who feels unequipped to help supervise, and someone who needs the supervision. And you have this clash at times. And that's where that personality clash can kind of come in. So understanding that being the supervisor is also a lot of work, and it's really hard emotionally, because your supervisor is electing to help you. Most times we're not getting extra payment. I would say very, very rarely you're getting extra payment. Sometimes you are. And if you are, it's not a lot. It's nominal. It's not really making that big of a difference. A lot of times people take on supervision because you get an hour or 2 hours off of seeing kids. But it ends up being a lot more work as the supervisor. So it's a lot easier sometimes once you're a seasoned SLP to see the kids. You know what you're doing. You're working with those kids, and you can go through, not the motions, because that's not how therapy works, but you can go through these more difficult things with families because you've learned how to do it. Whereas when you're navigating that CF relationship and truly trying to help support, it can be really tricky. So understanding, as a CF, you come in with a lot of expectations of your supervisor, and that's difficult because your supervisor is also a human who may or may not have supervised before. And if they have, they've never supervised you. And so helping open up those dynamics and those conversations, it can take a lot of emotionally equipped conversations on both sides. So it really is about understanding how to navigate that. But you are going to come in for your CF and you have a lot of expectations on your supervisor, and just knowing that can maybe help you take a deep breath at times too, because they are human. And as a human who has been a supervisor in the beginning and the middle and the end, it changes constantly. So even when you start to feel like you know what you're doing as a supervisor, you kind of get like smacked in the face of just kidding. Just kidding. You've done it wrong this time. Or you go in and you supervise someone else and you're like, oh, wow. Like, I didn't realize that how we were doing things was so different from how this supervisor was doing things. And we've learned, I think a lot for us, we learned that we needed to be able to teach CFs to take all types of feedback. Because we had a few instances when we were supervising where I would go in and I supervised, and the CF was not happy. And then it just caused this whole piece of friction that we didn't want. It ended up being wonderful. And we have a wonderful relationship. It's the most fantastic SLP and CF, not CF anymore. But it really can take that little moment of, whoa, let's pause. Okay, nothing big happened, but let's pause for a moment and dig through this. But that takes someone being able to pause as a supervisor and pause as a CF and be able to repair that relationship, because it's more than just seeing kids.
Yeah. And I think, I think to your point of the supervisor piece, I think about graduate school, and your professor so well. You know their style of communication. You've heard about it through the grapevine from other students. You see how they talk to other students. You kind of know what to expect. Whereas in your clinical fellowship, this is a whole new human that you know nothing about that's going to be your supervisor. You don't know their communication style. They don't know your communication style. And it's really hard. No one really teaches you how to have hard conversations. No one does. And I feel like that's something that we try to prepare CFs for, is just because you have a difficult conversation with someone or a challenging conversation or you disagree does not equal they don't like you or they're not on your side. It's okay to disagree, and it's okay to have tough conversations. In fact, if you avoid that tough conversation, you're just not going to grow in that relationship with that person or as a human. So you have to be prepared to take feedback in a variety of ways. So going into your CF and knowing, okay, my CF might give me feedback in the moment during my sessions that might make me uncomfortable, but I can do this. My CF supervisor might send me an email with lists of things that are suggestions of things that I need to do, and that might feel overwhelming and I don't like it, but it's to help me. It's a gift. Feedback is a gift, right? Or, it's so different, and I think we're such emotional creatures as SLPs. That's why we're in this field, is to help people. We're so empathetic. Sometimes, though, it can be to our detriment, because it can be to the point that we're not open to the facts and we're creating these narratives, right? So a lot of times I know in my CF, and even as an early clinician, I found myself creating false narratives in my brain because of my stress and my anxiety, and guessing, what was she thinking? What was she wanting to do? Where did that come from? I created all of these narratives that were really hurtful for me and for other people. And it wasn't intentional. It was never intentional. We all do it. And then I received the skills and the tools, and I learned the tools to stop that. And so an actionable step that I wish I would have used more in my CF is writing down the facts. What are the facts of the situation? Just literally get out a piece of paper when you're spiraling. And what are the facts? Don't write down what you think or what you think that person could be thinking. Write down the facts of the situation that is happening in that moment. And then just reading that and processing that and not spiraling will help you come up with a way to formulate a solution.
I love that so much because it really is about the facts, and we create these narratives. You're 100% correct. Those narratives are what tweak you and send you emotionally spiraling. And then you have that spiral, and then the more you spiral, the more you just start spiraling and spiraling. Yeah. And I love when you can say the facts and knowing that two things can be true.
Yes.
Two things can be true at once. It can be difficult for you to have that conversation. You might disagree with that supervisor, and you can keep working and have a good relationship with that supervisor. And understanding that, you can have different understandings of what expectations you have as long as you're having open dialogue. Two things can always be true. And I think that's that piece of that taking a step back and looking at the facts that can be super helpful, like you stated.
Yeah, I think it's just important for us to be prepared for that. I wish I would have been prepared for that because, again, you're feeling a lot of things in your CF. And then by the time you get to your 6-month marker, you should start feeling more confident, more yourself again. Okay, I've got the rhythm of the job. I know what the expectations are. I know how my supervisor communicates. They know a little bit more about how you communicate. And then you're able to just kind of settle in a little bit more. That doesn't mean that you won't make mistakes. But I also wish that I would have learned that when I made a mistake, I wasn't so hard on myself because people also aren't going to be as hard on you as you think. So we're all perfectionists and we're all very much want to be the best clinician possible. And I remember making mistakes and thinking, God, this just, maybe I'm not made for this. Like, I'm just not a great therapist. She's going to be so upset with me. And that often wasn't the case. Like, take out the feeling, which I know is so much easier said than do. Take out the feeling, and it does come with practice. We promise you it will come with practice. It won't feel like it for a while, but you will get there. And what are the facts? Like, yeah, it's, what do I say to everyone that you make fun of? It's not brain surgery. We don't have someone on an operating table, doing brain surgery. It's okay. Mistakes will happen and we will recover. But I will say, as a supervisor, I remember looking at, okay, well, how does the CF recover? What strategies are they utilizing? What tools are they utilizing to recover? Which I think segues us into, what are they looking for? What are supervisors looking for and expecting from CF so that they can start preparing now?
I love that. And right before we jump into that, I was just thinking too, what do you do if you have a supervisor who doesn't give you any feedback? Because sometimes there are. So before we dive in, because I love the next segue. But before we dive in, you might have someone who doesn't give any feedback and is just there to support you. You're doing great. You're learning. Great job. Do you have any questions for me? And what do you do in those moments? So that's where also, that's where we hear a lot too of like, and Hyla and I are a lot more hands-on in the beginning. We really are a little bit more hands-on the first 3 months. We believe in structure and helping teach and guide in a way that helps support your thinking so that as the next 6 months of your CF go by, you need us less and less. It's really about scaffolding for us. We expect to do a little bit more as the CF supervisor, and that kind of we're on the line right here. But we expect to do a lot more as a supervisor in the first 3 months. So if you have a supervisor who isn't as hands-on, learning how to have that conversation of what you need and really understanding what do you need. What do you need in those moments? Do you need her or him to watch a specific session? And if they're not available, can you record it? Can you look at it? Can you walk through the session?
Right.
Talk about the things that you have had difficulty with. And so it kind of leads into our next section of what is a supervisor expecting of us. But that is a big piece of some supervisors are super hands-off and just there to answer your questions. And as long as you don't have any questions, which is hard when you don't know what you don't know. And so you're asking these questions and then you go into a session, you're like, oh, this is what I really needed. But by that time you meet with them again next week, you've already had 17 million, it'll feel like, sessions. And you're already off of that one. You've already solved that problem, kind of. And then it's kind of back again and you're, oh my God, I didn't ask about this. So that's an important piece of how to segue into what to expect, what do our supervisors expect from us. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and to your point, Nikki, a tip for that I would give is keep a notepad around or your computer around to jot down and just have a note that's questions for supervisors so that as these things come up in your sessions, even if you're with a client, that's okay. Grab your notepad and jot it down. Question about this, because I think that oftentimes they want to help. Because keep in mind, a lot of supervisors are young, like you said, or young's not the word, are young in their supervision experience is what I should say. So they're new to supervising and they don't know what they don't know about supervising. And so they're thinking, well, she's not asking me questions. She must be fine. When we know that is not the case. Oftentimes we have to probe, but that's a podcast for a different day. But what you can do to help if you have a supervisor who's like that is prepare. Have those questions ready in the moment. And even if you don't need help with it anymore, it still might be a good question to ask, to circle back to get their perspective, because you might not think you need help on it anymore, but in reality you do, because it's going to come up again and then you're not going to really feel confident in what to do next.
I love it. It's a great way to keep yourself remembering what are the struggles that you're having so that you can work through them and feel more confident as you continue to face more struggles, because you will struggle every single time. I mean, every session, you'll find different struggles, different things that don't work. I love that so much. And that is true of what a supervisor expects you to do as well. I expect as a CF in your first 3 months, I'm really expecting you to try. So I'm expecting you to go into a session. I'm expecting you to start really learning a child, to play with the child, to figure out what motivates the child. And I want to understand how you can look at a child and understand where are they with interaction and joint attention and engagement. Where are they with receptive language? Where are they with expressive language? Where's their speech production skills? How do they communicate with the world around them? I want to know, can you see a child walk into a room and understand that? And most likely the first 3 months, I'm not expecting you to understand fully, but I want to see you start to build a picture about who this child and family is. It's not just about the child. Who is this family and what is the child's environment that they need to participate in? I'm expecting you to try and go into sessions and understand what the goals are, and not just the goals, understand where the child needs that help. I'm expecting you to have tried different things too, and not just try one thing, it didn't work, and then panic. Which is okay if you panic. It's not something that, like, you can't really control the panic.
You will panic.
You will panic, you always do. You just smile, deal with it, and you take a deep breath, and we keep on going. But I want to see what your thought process has been. I want to see how many different things you have tried to work through this, and I want to see you come to me and say, these are the things I've tried and this is what I've noticed. Because to me, that shows that you are trying different therapy techniques, and you're going to keep struggling because you're brand new in the career, but these are the things you've noticed from it. And that's more important to me than what you've tried, is what you've noticed. Because how do we pivot? You have to notice the things that aren't going well.
Right. I think that's a great expectation. And I think that most supervisors expect you to be able to kind of take the bull by the horns and just dive in and just give everything a try. Like you said, like, just try it. You are ready. You know, in their minds, they're thinking, you graduated, you've got this degree. Of course, you're going to need some support, but you're ready for this. You were built for this. Now you just have to rip off the Band-Aid and start trying things. And I do expect CFs to, I like to see how they do with feedback. I like to see how they respond to feedback that I give them in a variety of different ways. So it's okay if they don't agree with me. It's totally fine. How do they respond, and how can I shape the way that they're collaborating with another professional? Because so much of our work is collaboration. And we don't talk about that enough in graduate school, and we don't give providers the skills to be strong collaborators. And so for me, I'm looking for, how is this person showing up on the team for the child, for the family, for the rest of the team? How are they receiving the feedback that I'm giving, even if they don't agree with it, which is also fine? How are they communicating? Are they responsive? Are they trying to pivot in that moment? Are they trying to persevere, or are they just shutting down, breaking down, setting up walls? That's something for sure that I am looking for, is that ability to pivot and kind of pull yourself back up. You're going to fall down. You have to pull yourself back up.
Yeah. And with collaborating, I want to see how you disagree.
Yeah.
I want to see what you do when you disagree, because you will. You just will disagree. We disagree with people all the time. That is just how human nature is. Disagreement is not bad, but I want to see what you do in those moments. Do you just do what you want to do without working with the other professionals? Are we giving parents conflicting advice? Are we navigating that situation with the parents? Are we supporting what the parents ultimately want, or are we still pushing our ideals of what we expect onto the family? It's really important for me to understand where we are with disagreeing, because that is going to help you throughout your entire career.
Oh, yeah.
Understanding how to disagree. And we've disagreed all the time with CFs. CFs come out and they have really strong opinions of what's going to happen and what they expect and how you should be doing this, especially with certain types of therapies these days, especially autism, AAC, Gestalt language. Yep. There are big thoughts on how this needs to be done. And it's important for us to keep having these conversations. And I want to make sure as a supervisor that I'm helping support the disagreement conversation, that it can be productive and not something that we are just shutting everyone else down because everyone else is incorrect and wrong. And that is a mindset shift. So I want to see also your mindset. I want to understand, are you have a fixed mindset or do you have an open mindset? And that's not something that's, truthfully, as a supervisor, easy for us to change. So it's really important to know this about yourself. Yes, we can help guide you and show you what happens in those moments. And we have had success with some, one of our favorite SLPs ever had a really hard time and had a really closed mindset. And it took conversation after conversation after conversation with me and Highland to be like, oh, she didn't even want to have a closed mindset. She really wanted to be open mindset, but she couldn't. She was just so narrowed in, and she's such a phenomenal therapist, but she was so narrowed in that it was holding her back. Right. So as a supervisor, I want to see how you handle that, and can you grow from that? Because it's okay to come in like that. What's not okay is to stay like that forever in our career, because what happens is you're just not going to be happy. It's not easy to go through our career like that. And then you're going to have a lot of families that don't always agree with you. And then what do you do in those moments?
Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, it's also just about showing up, and and when we say showing up, that means coming to therapy ready to be the best that you can for the child and make the decision that's best for the child. Even if you've had a horrible day, even if you feel like you're having a hard time with your colleagues or your coworkers, figuring out the tools to separate that and show it for your patients, show it for your team, and, persevere. Continue to just work hard and know that it's okay to not know everything, but that you've got people around you that care about you, or you've got access to people that care about you and want to support you. It's the climb, right? It's what's that Miley Cyrus song?
Just as you said that, I was like singing it in my head.
It's not. I won't sing it for you guys. I won't karaoke on this episode. Maybe another one, but it's the climb. It really is. It's a journey, and you're gonna fall. You've got to pick yourself back up, and you've got to keep going, because regardless if you're an SLP or you're an accountant, it doesn't matter. When you go in for that first job and you have a supervisor, they will have expectations of you. You will have expectations for yourself. And in order to, you're going to probably have imposter syndrome or struggle with something. You got to close the gap. And the only way to close the gap is for you to meet. And you've got to keep climbing. So that's what, I think that we can both agree on, is you got to show up. Just keep showing up, even if it's hard to get out of bed, even if it's hard on those days to do the job. Just show up and know that it's not just about you and your feelings. It's about the clients as well. And I look for that in my CFs, that even if it's hard and it's not ideal, they're still showing up. They're just showing up.
And so if you are about to enter into your CF, or you're in the middle of your CF right now, what can you do to be able to have more of an understanding of what your supervisor is expecting? I suggest sit down with them. And it's not too late. If you're already you're in your CF, that's not too late to sit down and say, hey, I want to reset. What are you expecting from me? I want to make sure I understand what your goals are for me throughout this next couple months or next 9 months. What does it look like? And how do I communicate best with you?
Yeah.
And just know that that's a great way to start conversations, and it can be a little bit less intimidating to have that conversation before there's any issues going on too. So starting the conversations off like that, what you can do as your CF can really propel you forward to having more of these hard conversations.
Yeah. Asking them on the front end, like you said, Nikki, because a lot of times you're going to have that initial meeting. How do you prefer to communicate? How often are you able to support if they're not setting this up for you? What's the best way to reach you if I have questions? Setting yourself up for success by asking those questions, that also shows them your initiative and that you're determined to show up and be the best that you can be.
I love it. Those are it's great things. I mean, I feel like we could talk about this all day long, but those are the big things that I feel will really help you not just survive through the first 3 months, but really, really embrace it and really understand that it's gonna suck a little bit, and that's okay. It's supposed to suck a little bit, just what it is. So looking for that extra support outside of it. That's why we created our program, so that during this time period, you do feel supported, even when your supervisor maybe has the tools or doesn't have the tools as well to be able to support you. That's the whole point of our program, is that structured piece within still helps you navigate. So if you're finding, I'm a little bit nervous, I'm in a rural area. We talked to a class the other day who some CFs are going to be in a rural area and they don't have access to other SLPs. If you are in the middle of your CF and you love your supervisor, but you wanted a little bit more, or if you're starting your CF and you think it's going to be fantastic, this is why our program is here. It's not just for a time period where you're like, this is a terrible CF experience. It's for a positive CF experience. It's for when you are doing well, but you want to know a little bit more, or it's for when you don't have that support. So again, that's why we created this program, to be able to support you within a self-structure, so you can go through our modules, you can go back to our modules. It's really helpful to be able to navigate your CF experience.
I think someone said it, and I love this, and I'm going to say it every time. It fills the gaps.
Yes.
So it fills the gaps with your supervision, and it also gives you another perspective to think about when you're treating your clients, which is ultimately going to help you as you grow in your career. So it's giving you insight into a different window or portal of supervision, in addition to what you're getting, and it fills the gaps with those things that you may or may not have even experienced or covered during your clinical fellowship.
You don't know what you don't know, but we're going to tell you a lot about what you should know.
Yes. We're going to make your life easier. We are going to make your life easier. That's our goal. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, week, that you're doing something special for you this week. And I guess we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good. Have a great day, guys.
Bye.